And welcome everybody to a special college football rankings takeaways edition of the Don't Argue with Fact podcast. I'm your host Noah Love, and today we will be talking about the college football playoff rankings initial release. The college football rankings came out on Tuesday night. There is a different system in terms of they're using. We'll get into all that. We'll get into what I think of the personal ones. We'll go 25-1, and then I'll tell you the rankings, and then we will discuss them. I have a lot of takeaways from this. Without further ado, let's just get straight into the rankings. Let's start at 25. 25th ranked team is the Tennessee Volunteers. At 6-3, Tennessee's 25th. At 24, it's Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh 7-2 backup quarterback. And they come in at 24. At 23, the Washington Huskies come in. At 22, the Missouri Tigers come in 6-2. 21 is the Michigan Wolverines. 20 is the Iowa Hawkeyes. 19 is you at the Trojans of USC. 18 is Miami. I'll get into my thoughts on this. 17 is Georgia Tech. 16 is Vandy. 15 is Louisville. 14 is Virginia. Virginia at 8-1, Louisville at 7-1. They won the head-to-head there. Virginia did, so that's why they're in front. Number 13 is Utah. Number 12 is Oklahoma. Number 11 is Texas. Number 10 is Notre Dame. Number 9 is Oregon. Number 8 is Texas Tech. Number 7 is BYU. Look, Notre Dame 6-2 came in at 10. Oregon number 9 7-1. Number 8 Texas Tech 8-1. BYU obviously 8-0. They're at 7. Texas Tech and BYU play this week. Game day's gonna be there. Number 6 is Ole Miss at 8-1. The season coming off the win against South Carolina. Best win of the season at home against LSU, you believe. Number 5 is Georgia. Georgia at 7-1. Number 4 is Alabama. Alabama at 7-1. Alabama beat Georgia early in the season. That makes sense. Number 3 is Texas A&M at 8-0. Number 2 is Indiana at 9-0. Number 1 is Ohio State at 8-0. Now, let's get into it, to my reactions, because I do have a lot to say. Top 8. Really, yeah, top 8. Really top 9. No issue. None whatsoever. Texas A&M, maybe you can make the argument to be number 1. I felt like all of the top 3 teams have the argument to be number 1. Ohio State being number 1 told me eye test. That's what they're going off of. That's, I guess, going to be the number 1 criteria is eye test. Number 2 is Indiana. Indiana probably has the best win of the 3. A&M may have a better resume of the 3, but fair. Again, Bama at 4, no issue. They had the 1 loss for State. They've beaten some like 4 or 5 ranked teams. Fine. Georgia, Georgia beat Ole Miss. That's why they're ahead of them, and they lost to Bama. So fine. Georgia in great spot. Ole Miss 6. They're gonna get in on the table. 7 is BYU. 8-0. I'm fine with that. 8 is Texas Tech. Oregon is 9. I guess I'm okay with that. Penn State win, that was supposed to be their crowning achievement. Now they don't have a lot to hang their hat on. Now 3 of their last 4 games are against teams that are currently ranked. They go on the road to Iowa this week. Then in a couple weeks they play USC, who you will hope at home, which you hope they're still ranked. And then after that, they're on the road. Or are they on the road at Washington. Yeah, they're on the road at Washington, who is ranked currently. Now, committee, top nine, no issue. Here is where the issue lies with me. Notre Dame at 10. I get it. They're 6-2. They're trending upwards. I understand all of that. But no, head to head has to matter. Miami beat Notre Dame. I don't care if it was week 1. I don't care if it was week 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't care when it was. We saw that game. That game happened, and Miami beat them by 3. It was close, but they won. Head to head, why do we play the games? Head to head has to matter. They have the same record at 6-2. I guess they're saying Notre Dame at the moment is just unequivocally better, which I guess you can make that case. But I still feel like head to head has to matter. Miami beat Notre Dame. Also, Texas. Texas is 7-2. How is Texas? I know it hasn't looked pretty. How is Texas not ahead of Notre Dame? Can somebody please explain that to me? I understand the law. Maybe the laws at Florida, because I know Notre Dame, you lose to Miami and A&M in the close games. I guess maybe the laws at Florida. But in terms of like the wins for Texas, they beat Oklahoma. That's a far better win. Who is right behind them, funny enough. That's a far better win than whatever Notre Dame has against USC out. That's far better. The win they had against Vandy this week, far better than what Notre Dame has. Are you going to sit up here and tell me that Notre Dame's unequivocally better than the Texas? The Texas team that played Vandy, that's the Texas team we've been waiting to see all year. For about 3 quarters, obviously. But the point is, that's the team we have been waiting to see all year. And then Oklahoma at 12, Michigan at home is a far better win than whatever Notre Dame has. Going on the road to Tennessee is a far better win than what Notre Dame has. Here's my issue with them going with eye test is because this is the wrong year to do that, because I don't believe that after you get out of like the top 3, I don't think there's really that much of a gap. Maybe top 4 if you want to add Bama in there, but I really don't think there's not that much of a gap between Georgia and Notre Dame. There's not that much of a gap between Georgia and Oklahoma. I really do believe that. Well, eye test. You can't tell me Notre Dame's unequivocally better than Oklahoma. Look, I know it hasn't looked pretty for Oklahoma or Texas, but you can't tell me they're unequivocally better. I'd have Notre Dame at 12 or 13. Maybe 14 because Miami's done, ladies and gentlemen. Miami's done. They are done. I figured that when you can go back to the video of the week 10 takeaways. I said, look, Miami's done unless people like collapse. They're 6 and that SMU loss. People are gonna be like, the SMU loss on the road did them in. Losing at home, coming off a bye against Louisville did them in. To me, that's just a game you can't lose. Look, I know they have Pitt on the schedule. Even if Miami wins out, people are like, what is Miami's path back in? I genuinely don't think they have a path back in. I don't think unless everybody just collapses, I don't think they have a path back in. Louisville beat them. So, unless Louisville just like finishes 7-5 or 8-4, I don't see that. Virginia's probably going to be in the ACC title game. I don't think Utah's just going to fall off a map. In terms of the SEC, that'll sort itself out because they play each other, so that sort itself out. But yeah, Miami's done. I put in my notes. Miami is cooked. I said Miami should be over Notre Dame because of the head, but they're cooked. They're cooked. Also, the ACC will only get one team. They're basically telling you with Georgia Tech at 17. They're basically telling you it if you are if you win the ACC, you go. Anything outside of that, you're not going. Anything outside of that, you're not going. That's basically what the committee's telling you because Virginia's not even ranked in the top 12. Louisville's not even ranked in the Georgia Tech. Look, what's hurting them is that Colorado and Clemson both stink. That's what's hurting them because again, that Clemson win was supposed to be the defining win in terms of the season. That's the win in the ACC you hang your hat on. Now you don't got. What do you got? They don't have anything else to really hang their hat on, and they're winning these games. I know they lost to NC State, but they don't have anything else to hang their hat on. That's the issue that Georgia Tech has right now is that in terms of the wins, the committee are looking at you and they're going, "Yeah, you're winning, but because of this new metrics we put out with the sched the schedule, and you need to play somebody." They're basically saying you played nobody. That's basically what they're saying, which again is very unfortunate. I For Georgia Tech, I think you gotta win out. I mean, look, you can still go to the ACC title game and all that jazz, but I think you have to win out, which means you have to beat Georgia. Again, I don't think there's a way two ACC teams get in. I genuinely don't think there's a way. I'm just gonna be completely honest. I can't even think of a way. They're telling you verbatim you're only getting one. You're only getting one ACC team. Okay. And then I also want to get into this with the ACC. I put down that Pittsburgh is one of the most impactful teams left and one of the most impactful teams in the rankings. And you would say to me, they're 24th. Here's why Pitt is so impactful coming down the stretch of the season. This is why they're so impactful in terms of the schedule. I am going to pull it up here. Oof. Ooh, that's Oregon. No, I'm going to pull it up here. I know they play Miami as well. They play Miami obviously late in this year, but I think they may be on a bye this week. Yeah, they're on a bye this week. So their final three games are Notre Dame at home, on the road at Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh at home. Pittsburgh, if they win out, they go to the ACC title game. That's if they win out. I believe they go to the ACC title game and then they could get in. Now that will require them winning at Georgia Tech. If they don't do that, they're out. I mean, technically they don't have to win out. They could lose to Notre Dame because that's a non-conference game. But I'm just saying, if they win out in terms of the ACC, they'll go. Okay. Yeah, and they're white hot right now. That Notre Dame game on November 15th, Notre Dame, you win that, you're going. If you lose, I don't think you go. I don't know how you go. The committee is basically telling Notre Dame, winning you're in. Win the rest of the games and you're in. Nothing else matters. That's what they're telling you. Lose and you probably don't make it. And they're saying the same thing essentially to Oregon, even though Oregon's 7-1. Win out, you're in. Lose one, there's a high probability you don't make it. That they're saying the same things. So, but Pittsburgh is the most impactful team because of those three teams. Now, Miami, they do have the opportunity to get another ranked win if Pittsburgh's ranked at that time. But Miami, I just don't see how you find your way back in. I don't. I just don't see it. I mean, yes, it's very probable that you win out, but the teams in front of you, unless they all collapse, I don't know how you jump. I don't know how you jump. Look, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but they're con- they're it just doesn't seem like they're gonna get it. I also put in my notes because let's get to the. I said the Big 12 may get two teams, depending on where they rank. If BYU loses and it's like a close game, depending on where they rank after this, obviously the winner of the Big 12, and then they may get it at large. Utah at 13 is really what surprised me. I'm really surprised they rank Utah that high. I'm really surprised. In Utah, they're one of the teams on the outside looking in. I think they would be the third team on the outside looking in there. This is what really interests me in terms of Utah, because Utah at 13 makes me think, look, if they went out, could they get in with a 10-2 record? Is that a plausible like thing? Is that something that could happen? Could the Utes get in with a 10-2 record without playing in the Big 12 title game? That's a very interesting premise that the committee laid out. They really put the Big 12 in a good spot. Now, granted, one of the athletic directors from the Big 12, the Baylor athletic director, is on the committee, so I don't I don't want to say like favoritism or anything like that, but it's kind of there. It's kind of there because if you look at Utah's schedule, look, they beat Cincinnati, yeah, fine. Who was ranked? They beat Arizona State with a backup quarterback. They got smashed by Texas Tech. They lost to BYU, but at 10-2, because look, Texas and Oklahoma, they they have tough schedules. They're both not going to go 10-2. They're both not going to go 10-2. So that'll play itself out, and then Notre Dame will see. It really begs the question: if you there are they telling Utah if you went out and get help, you're in. You don't need to go to the Big 12 title game. That is very interesting. So the Big 12 could get two teams in. Also, the Big 10 could get four. Now, you would think, how can they get four? Here's how they get four. Ohio State, Indiana almost locks at this point. Oregon, see if Oregon wins out, they're not going to get four because they play Utah and Iowa. So Oregon would not have to be one of the four. Actually, I take that back. I take that back. Oregon, if they win out, that would be three. Michigan would have to win out, meaning beat the number one team in the country, Ohio State, and then where I know they're ranked 21, but I'm going to assume there's upset movement and all that jazz. Michigan could have a case, and that's how they could get four. Or it would have to be a scenario where USC wins out and Iowa wins out. They're both 10-2, and then we'll see what the committee would do with that. And then obviously Ohio State and Indiana. So look, they can still get four. The SEC is going to be very interesting. I think they're going to, bare minimum, they get four. or 3. Look, I feel like Ole Miss is a lock because of their schedule. I feel like they're a lock. A&M, I feel like, okay, I feel like Ole Miss is almost a lock. I feel like Georgia's going to go because I do think they're going to beat Texas. A&M and Bama, if that's the game in the SEC championship game, then they both go. Then that means they're both going to go. So that's 4 right there. So now, if there's an upset, like if Texas or Oklahoma beats somebody, beats a Georgia or a I don't know, a Alabama, then it gets interesting. But look, the SEC, I'm not really worried about that because that'll play itself out. So I'm not gonna stress over that. It'll play itself out. Yeah, and then also, and this is my last point before I get out of here. No Group of 5 teams ranked. No USF. No Memphis. Obviously, they had to have a Group of 5 team in terms of like when they showed the bracket. So I guess Memphis is the highest ranked Group of 5. So that means they will be going on the road to play Georgia in the first round. Yeah, but yeah, those are my thoughts on the first rankings. They're not horrible, but I do feel like the committee kind of missed on some. I feel like they could have done a little bit better, but I feel like they could have done a little bit better. But yeah, that's kind of what it is. All right, this has been an episode of Don't Argue with the Facts podcast. I've been your host, Noah Love. Until next time, see ya.